One of the things I think about when I think about putting emotion down, and this is not to be confused with having a lack of sympathy or not having empathy for people and just overall being apathetic. What I'm really more so focused on, I'm talking about falling prey to your emotions. And this may be really difficult for those of us, if not most of us, who were raised with a whole lot of emotions involved. Like I think about with myself, how when you're a kid and being chastised and just elders and people that were up around you showing like a lot of emotional, you know, as far as getting on to you and just really being a heightened situation. And when I think back on myself, a lot more heightened than what it should be. And you think about that as a child, a kid, where you can't stand toe to toe like you would an adult and, you know, set up boundaries or dismiss yourself or even for all that matter have the brain capacity to deal with ruling out on, hey, this is not you, this is just this person going overboard or just overly emotional with some things. And when I think about this, I think about it from the standpoint of you having all that emotion raining down on you, and you internalize it, and it causes you to be emotional to a degree to where you're just like pent up with that anger or whatever you're wanting to feel and say and do, because you really can't do anything about it. Your hand is forced. And when you do come of age, or when you're outside of the household, you show this pent up emotion in other ways. So it's something that we never really come to grips with. It's just the way that we deal with things. So I know, like with me, one of the big things when I was, coming up, I just kind of felt like it was just certain things I couldn't allow to happen. I'll just leave it that. I couldn't allow to happen on the outside that occurred within my circle, because I knew on how it made me feel on the inside. So, with that being said, I would respond from emotional perspective because I was angry. And you have to elevate. You have to think about it in terms of like this, being like this. Think about it like this: when you get older and you have children, what's the best way in you chastising them? In other words, you have to critically think. Things have to go further beyond. I'm just mad, so I'm gonna be mad and I'm gonna react however I feel in being mad. Because you can't do people like that out in the world. You can, but there's some serious consequences that come behind it. And your days may be numbered on being that reactive. So at that point where you're thinking about, hey, I have to put this in check. So in reality, you already know that this is not acceptable to being like this with everybody. But when you're acting like this with children and you're bringing them up in this condition, whoever it may be, could be whoever's in charge or watching over you, who you're around, and it comes a point. Well, it should come a point to where you go, hey, look, this is no longer acceptable. I'm talking about from the child's standpoint, to where it's a line that you cross and go, hey, look, it's got to be a better way in dealing with these things, opposed to keeping all that pent up emotion and you being reactive because you're basically just kind of caught up from the way that you've been done, or it's really shaped your personality and your attitude to how you deal with things. That's the reason why I always talk about thinking critically, taking your emotion up out of it, because your emotions really get you nowhere. When other than when you're talking about, like I said, being empathetic towards a person, sympathizing, your emotions really get you nowhere. They get you in rash. They cause you to make rash decisions. You'll find yourself in some places where normally, if you weren't in your emotions, is no way in the world that you would choose to be in that particular situation. So that's one of the reasons why I rely so heavily on saying putting your emotions in check, being slow to anger, slow, because what. And let me pause on it for a second. When I'm thinking about being slow to anger, going back to that story of me talking about as of being a kid, you think about if you got an adult lashing out at you and they're all in their emotions, And even as a child, it was something like I was once told. Even as a child, they're people too. They're people too. They're not adults yet, but they're people. They're walking around. They're human just like how you are. They have thoughts, feelings, emotions, the whole nine. But for a child, it's harder for them to express that and to put this put this within reason. All they see is anger and frustration and emotion and carrying out and whatever it is that you're doing. So that's the way they're responding. So it's teaching them. And then it's not like, hey, yeah, when you become 18, hey, yeah, I'm not going to do this anymore. This is not acceptable. And reacting like this on the job or with friends or in traffic, somebody cutting me off. It doesn't go away. It's only when we're keen to these life lessons, when things continually happen, you find yourself in situations. I know for myself, on certain situations that I may have been in, I'm just like, this is not cool. This is not me. Well, it is me, but what I'm saying is this is not what I want to be a part of my life. This confusion, this always a brouhaha going on. I don't want this. It's unacceptable. I really consider myself to be a person that's peaceful to the core on the inside, and I don't want this stuff up around me. So I don't seek people or situations, any of that to be up around me, and a lot of that is contributed to what I put into that as well with the people and everything. Even when I think about it, on a lot of the things that I've shared on this channel in regards to work and situations that may arise with just things that have to do with Ayin. Just because you got to evolve, just because something makes you mad shouldn't thrust you into this whole different world of what I do on things when I'm mad. It's a whole nother Ayin that you're dealing with. That's one of the things that I had to wrestle with. It was just like, man. Then when you come down off that mountaintop of being all up off in your feelings with emotional and responding and meeting people's responses with what you think is justified because, hey, yeah, this has been totally disrespectful in the way that you were addressing me or whatever the case may be. Man, maybe I went a little overboard. Yeah, you met me and you did wrong. And I acted accordingly how I felt. But now, after the dust is all settled, I think I took it too far. I went way too far. So, how can I write this? And what I'm talking to you on, think about it from the standpoint of cutting it off right there at the knees before you even go too far. And a lot of that, like I said, is taking your emotion up out of it. Critically thinking. That's the reason why with a lot of my videos, I share the stories that I share, and I put this stuff out here so you can look at it as a what if scenario. What if that was to arise? Ayin is telling me on how it went this way left. One of the solutions, the healthy solutions that he's putting on the table, that does sound viable. Or what's in the realm of something that I could do or to avoid that situation. I mean, ultimately, that'd be the best thing to avoid it. But you know the way life is. Certain things just fall in your lap, and you have to deal with them. So that's what I'm talking to you from when I'm thinking about you versus all that emotion. It's my take on it. Do as you wish. Stay encouraged. Avoid being discouraged. I'm Ayin. Y'all have a good one.